Transwarping across the universe. Yeah. So this is a thing. I've no idea why Playmates came up with this as a concept. This is a transforming Galaxy class Enterprise D. And it transforms from a standard Enterprise D to the Galaxy X Dreadnought version of the Galaxy D from All Good Things. Absolutely bonkers, and yet as I've looked at these various Playmates releases, I have come to appreciate that they do bonkers quite a lot, but in a great way. So this is a relatively small box. It's not the same sort of scale as the really sort of big models like the Enterprise D that I've shown you before. It's not on that scale. It's only maybe half that size. So on the front here it says Enterprise transforms to the futuristic starship seen in All Good Things, 2 starships in 1. And I do get it in the sense that when the Enterprise D from All Good Things came along, no one probably saw it coming, and it was visually different enough that it warranted bringing out a toy of it, but it would have been right towards the end of Playmates' coverage of Star Trek Next Generation. So it makes sense to me that they would try and do something, but maybe didn't have time to do it on the same sort of scale. So you can see here that this is what the two different iterations of the ship look like. So you got from Enterprise NCC-1701-D to the futuristic Starship Enterprise from All Good Things, 2 complete stages of transformation. So I had a loose one of these, and then I saw a boxed version, and I thought, well, I want to get the boxed version because then I can show it to you. But I've never actually really sat and played with it to figure out exactly how they achieved the transformation in total. So let's have a look at the back of the box, because this may give me some clues as to how to do it, which might be helpful. So let's have a look at the text on the back here, because they've obviously gone for the sort of the full text information option here. So we'll have a look at this. That's about as close as I can get it, actually. So, Starfleet Command Computer Communications Report, access granted. During Captain Picard's unpredictable slipping between 3 time periods, 7 years in the past, 25 years in the future, and the present, he encounters a futuristic Starship Enterprise. Picard reports that the future starship will be commanded by Admiral Riker and will be configured with many advanced features. Though basically still the same internal design as the present USS Enterprise, currently under Captain Picard's command, the future Starship Enterprise will possess several exterior design modifications. The most notable is the inclusion of a 3rd warp engine, warp nacelle, along with cloaking abilities and weapons upgrade. Though Starfleet Engineering recommends an accelerated progress to create this futuristic Starship Enterprise within 10 years, the Federation has taken the recommendations of Captain Picard and decided not to proceed. No further investigation, therefore, shall be conducted on the futuristic USS Enterprise. Starfleet shall wait for our future to unfold naturally. End report. Starfleet out. So there are instructions down the right-hand side of the box here to tell me how to translate this into a more normal starship and a more advanced starship, respectively. So you reconfigure the starship into it. So you bring a nacelle out of the saucer section. You pop the phaser cannons here, if they are phaser cannons. It doesn't actually say if they are phaser cannons. I'd always rather assume they were. I can't remember if we saw them in the All Good Things. I'd like to think they were cannons of some sort. So they come out of the top of the saucer as well. And then looks like you're doing some. Oh yes, then you bring in the phaser lance out of the bottom of the saucer section. Then you've got to display the Transwarping Starship Enterprise on the Starfleet Deluxe display stand. Now, if you're unfamiliar you might. I mean, obviously they've used the phrase transwarping because it's a transforming enterprise, but in terms of canon in Star Trek, transwarp is a valid term in the sense that it refers to the ability of a starship to use an unconventional method of warp speed to achieve higher than normal warp speeds. So the Excelsior in the original series movies was said to have a transwarp drive, which was going to let it achieve basically any speed it really felt like. Now, that technology didn't then get applied across the fleet because there were problems with it, as Scotty so aptly demonstrated in Star Trek 3. And as a result, we've had the references to sort of transwarp conduits and so on used by the Borg, but it's never become a sort of mainstream propulsion design as such. Although I think that Star Trek Prodigy sort of bounces around the concept a little bit. So let's just have a look now at this boxed version I have, and we'll see what we can do with it. So, interestingly, it's been configured in a... Oh no, it's sort of largely in its All Good Things configuration as it is. Now, interestingly, there's no stand. The back of the box suggests that there ought to be a stand, so presumably I'm missing the stand for it. I mean, this was just unboxed. It wasn't complete as such. But unfortunately, I don't have a stand for it. I don't think I had a stand with my previous one either. Anyway. So it looks like then we've got these are little phaser lance or mini phaser lances up here, if they are phasers, as I say, and that probably is the completed All Good Things version of it. So as you can see, it's got the third nacelle there, but it's not a sort of a huge model at all. When push comes to shove, it's just not massive. So let's see if we can put this back into 1701-D pure mode, if you like. So I think that what we're doing is putting that nacelle there, and you can see here as well that it's got the phaser lance on the underside of the saucer section, which is a nice touch because that's absolutely as it should be. And this is as close as Playmates got to, I say, to doing an All Good Things Enterprise, basically. This is it. So what you see is what you get in this particular instance. Now then, okay. And bearing in mind I haven't done this before, so I could get this horribly wrong. Indeed, I don't really have a clue what I'm doing with it, but let's just have a quick fiddle with this. So it's got flaps at the top here. So if I can just get a finger on these, I should be able to lift those up. Okay, yeah, so lift those up, tuck those around and out of the way. There we go. Okay, I'm working on it. Here we go. So tuck that away in there as well. So that gives you, looks like the nacelles pop off very conveniently as well. I mean, the thing is, that's actually very, very sensible because kids probably would do that. Now then, how do I? It's definitely designed for smaller fingers, I feel, because okay, so it's actually quite a big flap then there. So that allows you. Wow! Now, did you see that? That's quite cool. So that base unit actually slides in there and into there. So it's using the whole. It's using the whole sort of width of the hull to get that in there and back hidden. And then presumably you should then be able to bring this down to mask it. And this is what I think when I first started seeing this on auctions, it really confused the heck out of me because I didn't realise, being something of a Trekkie obviously, I thought the transwarping was going to referring to something sort of like an electronic sound effect that it did. I didn't realise it was actually going to be transformable because I've never seen anything from Playmates that really did that. I mean, obviously the little inner space play sets and so on do transform, but that's not really sort of their main function, if you see what I mean. They're not trying to be the same thing in two different modes. They're just transforming because that's what gives them the playability value. Which I suppose is true of this as well, up to a point, if you can actually do it the right way and then be able to bring it down. So it's this last bit that I'm struggling with. I can't quite get it to lock down in the back here. I'm afraid of forcing it in case the whole thing gets upset with me. It clearly wants to do it, but it must be quite a precise. I think maybe that in first. How does that do it? Well, that's nowhere near. I feel like I'm missing a step or something because oh, that's nearly it. But there's don't know if you can see this, but there's a little tab there, and I get the impression that that is what's getting in the way of my ability to actually lock this in. I think what I'm going to do is just have another careful look at the back and just see if I've missed a step. Bear with me. Right, that took me a moment to figure out. So that little flap I was showing you moves. So when you tuck the nacelle back away inside there, you can then fold it down with this flap up, and then you just have to put that flap down to seal it back up again. So they had to make a little bit of an allowance for that, I think, in putting it all together. But that's the way in which they've done it. And then on the flip side here, you also need to be able to put this away, of course. This I haven't tried yet. It's another very difficult to get hold of little tab. Oh, there you go. Right. So that then lifts up, and that's just going to tuck away in there, hopefully. Oops. If I don't snap it off first, of course. Oh well. I'm sure that's not supposed to do that, but anyway. So you fold that up and pop it in there, and then if you haven't broken it like I just have, it will sit happily in there. I don't think I have actually broken it. I think that's intentional snappability on their part. I think it just fits back in there, but I think that probably should flip over to make the land smaller before it goes in, would be my guess. But again, it's quite fiddly. I get the gimmick, but it's kind of, I think the problem is that they've probably pushed it too far in trying to do this, and maybe this was a sort of a last gasp thing on their part, I don't know. But it feels like it hasn't quite had the thought. Now, I don't know, this might just be the version of it that I've got. Maybe this is a little bit play worn and it's not quite behaving as it should, or perhaps I just don't have the instructions and that's not helping me. Because the instructions might be telling me to not do lots of things that I'm doing with it. But anyway, you get the basic gist. One thing I did notice, I was just looking at the box to try and look at the instructions, and you'll notice that here these mini phaser cannons here at the top, I'm just going to keep calling them that, they're completely grey, whereas on the box here they've got a distinct orange colour to them, and I don't know if that's normal or not. I guess I'd have to go and look at my other version to see, but I'm just sort of looking across. I mean, all the other imagery that's there is on them in terms of sort of stickers and so on, so I'm kind of puzzled about. I just wonder if someone perhaps hasn't applied some stickers and that's why it's not quite looking as it does there. I mean, clearly this version of it that I've got in front of me isn't quite complete. What I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a look at the other one that I've got and just see if that is a common issue or not. So the alternative version of it also has uncoloured laser cannons on the top there, phaser cannons on the top, so I guess it's just a thing. Now this one's actually quite useful to me because this one isn't configured with its phaser lance out, so it might just be worth having a quick look at this. I can already see just from looking at it how it's different. So the way in which the phaser lance is supposed to work is that you have this piece that flips up here, then you've got the little sort of the middle of the, well, I guess it's the captain's yacht actually, it's just here, and that would sort of flip out and then form the underside of the hull. So that's built into that section, but the phaser lance here has actually been tucked right all the way in underneath the saucer section. So initially I actually thought it was missing on this example, but it's not. It's just that there's so much movement going on in here, it's kind of hard to pin down exactly how things are supposed to make their appearances. So actually you collect it from under there and bring it straight out and onto there, and then you would just tuck that away, and there you are, there's your phaser lance. So definitely doable, but again I think it's really just a question of needing smaller, thinner fingers to be able to do it in a more sort of convincing fashion. But I mean, it definitely does work, and I guess if I were not the age that I am, that would be a lot easier. I've also just noticed, that's interesting. Now I do kind of remember that as a feature. There are little sort of flip down elements here, and I wonder if that was actually a part of one of the elements that they added to the All Good Things Enterprise. So I think maybe it got those two little additional drop-down winglets kind of ideas there as well. I think the only unfortunate thing with this as a design is that you seem to get left with these two big holes on the top because of where the phaser cannons were when it changes. So that's a little bit unfortunate. This actually looks like a separate. What's this? I mean, I have to say, it's an interesting toy in the sense that I'm seeing more things with it each time I have a look at it. Because I hadn't previously noticed those little drop-down winglets. And it looks for all the world as if there's something else hidden there. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So, were those supposed to be torpedo launchers or something? Was that just another part of the transformation that you do? I'm not really sure what those were on the Dreadnought version. There might have been something else there. I'm not sure. It's a shame I didn't pick up the instructions for this one, because that might have been, more illuminating in terms of what the overall idea was behind this. I'm just looking. I have got the stand for it. Okay. I'm just looking at the back of the box. Saucer impulse engine, warp engine nacelles, main shuttle bay. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't really tell you anything about the additional elements, but I have actually got the stand for it, as it turns out. So that must have come with the first one I got, I think. So I guess that you would then, yeah. Well, that's good for my beauty shot of it, if nothing else. So that's it. I mean, that's kind of interesting because it's taking its cue there, I guess, from the Strike Force approach. So it's decided that it's going to take the Strike Force approach and give us a stand with it, as it did for the later versions of the larger model ships. But obviously this isn't on the same scale as their normal Enterprise D. So it's a weird sort of halfway house. And as I say, the one thing you can say about this is it is unique in terms of all their other Starship designs that they issued, in that it's just, it transforms, and it's just a really odd scale in the sense that it just doesn't correspond with anything else that they put out at the time. But it's a clever idea from Playmates, and I completely see what they were going for, because it does give you that little bit of extra interest from a single model, which makes sense. And I don't know. I mean, it would have been very, very late to be trying to do, an actual sort of like a Transformers concept with it. That would have been kind of odd, I guess. But perhaps they were just trying to mirror some of the other stuff that was happening at the time with different concepts of, sort of transformable vehicles to give more play value. I suspect actually that the warp missile should be further back. Again, you see, there seems to be a sort of
there seems to be like a sort of a hatch kind of outline on the top of the warp nacelles here, but I can't see that they actually do anything as such. Were they supposed to have extra phaser strips, or? Oh yes. Good lord! It's, as I say, I do really. It's really a shame I don't have instructions. But if you compare that nacelle with that nacelle, so these are exactly the same ship. Because can you see the tops of the nacelles flip over? So the standard nacelle doesn't have a phaser strip on it, whereas this one, the All Good Things version, does. So this is now fully configured as the All Good Things Enterprise, whereas this one obviously doesn't have those phaser strips. So actually, there is a lot of stuff to do, but you'd really have to have the instructions, I think, to really understand and appreciate just how much, sort of flexibility and extra design nuances there are built into it. That is impressive. That is impressive. That they actually thought to take it that far and actually add in those extra phaser strips. I mean, if you're unfamiliar, the idea behind phasers in the Next Generation era is that you have these you have sort of strips of phasers going along here like this, so they can sort of fire phasers from any point on this line basically. But to get extra coverage, they would often sometimes then put extra phaser strips on different parts of the ships. So as a result, this All Good Things Enterprise was supposed to be even more kick bottom than the normal Enterprise because it had extra phaser strips and it had the extra warp nacelle. Now, I've mentioned previously, I don't get why an extra warp nacelle would necessarily be that beneficial in terms of power. But if you put a phaser strip on top of it as well, then I guess you're getting more use from it that way as well, and maybe gives you a faster overall warp speed. So it's been a slightly sort of frustrating item to look at in some respects, because you have to really sort of get into it to understand everything that it does. And without the instructions, that's quite difficult. I mean, I could easily have missed that those nacelles were different there. The only reason I've noticed that is because I've got two examples of it, which is, hilarious, but also very, very nicely played on my part, I suppose, ultimately. So I say this ironically is the first one that I picked up that wasn't in the box, and it's actually had better stickers applied to it because it's USS Enterprise is where it should be, whereas the other one's got it down the back of the spine, kind of down here. So whoever put that other one together didn't know what it was supposed to look like, unfortunately. Whereas this one was actually obviously put together rather better. So these aren't expensive to pick up at all. So if you wanted a sort of a reasonable-ish Enterprise D on a stand, if you could get it complete, then actually you could probably do worse than this. The overall model itself isn't terrible. It's just kind of complicated if you do want to transform it. But by the same token, you won't find many sort of Dreadnought class Ds that are of this size. The Eagle Moss XL is not dissimilar. But this is not necessarily a terrible idea either if you want a sort of a slightly more exciting stand than the standard Eagle Moss stand. So entirely up to you what your personal preference is, basically. But they've obviously put quite, and I would expect this from Playmates, in fairness to them. They never leave, it seems, a stone untouched in terms of the amount of effort they put into their designs. There's always something else to find, to look at, to think, yeah, that designer was really on their A game. Because there is a lot in here that could easily have not been in here, very, very easily. They could have omitted half this stuff and most people wouldn't have appreciated that it was missing. But I like the fact that they've gone to that trouble to put in that little detail of being able to flip over the nacelle coverings to give you the extra phaser strips. That is a very, very nice touch. So, next time on Trek Toys, what am I doing? Well, I think one of the things I will do is a wash-up of a slew of little Enterprise Ds that I've picked up over time, just to show you the sort of range of things you can lay your hands on if you just wanted a sort of a slightly smaller display of Enterprise Ds, and you can sort of just get an idea of what's available on the market, because obviously she's been around for a while now, and various companies have had cracks at her, and obviously I'm showing you an example of an Enterprise D now, but what I'm going to do is go outside of the sort of the obvious Playmates and Diamond Select ones and just show you some of the little ones. I do have another quite cool thing to show you, but I'm just going to keep that in my back pocket for the time being. And when I stop to think about it, I've still got a good sort of dozen or so, maybe not quite that many, but some significant items I haven't shown you yet, to put it that way. So this playlist is going to carry on for a few more weeks yet. Is the long and the short of it. So I hope you've enjoyed that one, and I'll see you soon for another. Cheers for now.